Hey everybody, welcome back. So last week you may have noticed that we just kind of jumped in running. We didn't really take a chance to introduce ourselves or anything like that. We are brand new to this, and we're going to be learning things as we go. So this is going to be one of those things. So to introduce ourselves for anybody that doesn't know, my name's Cody. I work in IT, and this is my buddy Kyle. We met in the military back about 20 years or so ago. We were both military police. That's kind of our background on the whole foreign policy side of things. So, Kyle, would you like to say anything before we get
Well,
going?
yeah. So as Cody said, I'm Kyle. I work in the e-commerce sector of the world here. I also have a background. I have my law degree from Syracuse University, so a little bit of legal knowledge back there as well. And just in general, like Cody said, we kind of met each other a number of years ago and continue to stay in touch and daily discuss about politics and punk rock music. And we're here to just bring our thoughts to the people here who align with us at this point.
Yeah, that actually the law degree kind of rolls us into the first topic we wanted to talk about today, which is the state of Virginia and the state of Virginia. So I clearly live on the West Coast now. Before I moved out here, I did live in Virginia and still have a lot of friends out there. And they recently went to the ballots and decided that they were going to redistrict their state in response to what the Trump administration and the state of Texas did to gerrymander in the middle of the decade, which is essentially unheard of. And they voted to go ahead and give the power back to the state to redistrict on partisan lines, which is a thing that generally the left and the Democratic Party, and along with the Libertarian Party, has fought against for years. And the big question is, why are they suddenly wanting to allow this gerrymandering? And then the simple answer to that is to fight back.
Yeah.
Traditionally, the left and the Democratic Party doesn't fight back, and this is their method of doing it. So, happened was the state voted that they were going to go ahead and allow that partisan gerrymandering again for a temporary length of time, just to fight back against the non-democratic methods of gerrymandering they're doing in the state like Texas. So, Kyle, if you want to pick it up from here and kind of let us know what the Supreme Court of the state did.
Yeah. So the what ended up happening is the Trump regime and essentially when and what their argument was is when it comes to the ballot measure, you're allowed to do what the General Assembly of Virginia wanted, right? You're allowed to put forth the redistricting, and it all came down to when the election actually started. In order for something like this to go through, it tends to have to be before an election begins, right? You can't try to push something on the ballot once the election cycle has officially started. There's a lot of interpretation here and very loose interpretation of kind of what that statute in Virginia allows for. And what the Trump side basically argued was that because early voting had started, that's what nullified this ballot measure. That it wasn't in part of it occurred during an election period. The Virginia General Assembly was arguing that an election is the day. The election day itself is what the true intent of what that statute's for. Um, Obviously, this is an attempt by the GOP to just fuck the will of the people of the state of
Sure,
Virginia.
sure.
There's no two ways about it. It's just a clear move that the people voted, and mind you, the moment that this fucking election was over, who was chirping on the side saying that it was stolen? The big fucking orange twat himself, right? He was sitting there the moment because we were up bigly, and then they found a bunch of votes. So, like he thinks that there's just some dude walking around with a fucking briefcase and just like ballots, you fucking Oprah giving away ballots, right? That's not how this works. All the ballots are counted, and then they count the ballots that were mailed in. It's basic. But this orange asshole starts screaming from the top of his lungs that it's stolen. And of
Well,
course,
sure.
his sheep followers believe it and start to bitch. It's the same sort of fucking tactic that he did in 2020 and still says that that election was stolen.
Well, sure, because there's absolutely no chance he can lose a free and fair election. It had to be stolen. There's no other alternative. It had to be rigged.
So this is obviously a huge loss for us with the midterms coming so close. The state says that they're going to
Still
try
think
to. try to appeal this.
Sorry, but
No, no, no. The state's gonna, looking at avenues for appeal, but you'd be going up against SCOTUS.
Yeah.
What the
who
fuck is
just
that gonna do?
yeah, the same SCOTUS who just gutted the Voting Rights Act.
Right. Yeah. So it would just at the end of April, they severely limited Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Louisiana was fighting a redistricting bill. They were saying that the redistricting was predominantly creating a second black majority district. Um, so of course, gerrymandering has always been about race. Anyone who thinks otherwise is just fucking blind. Gerrymandering
Right.
has always been about race and just lumping as many minorities in one district as possible.
Mhm.
Um, this time they were trying to do it for the benefit of of the community by separating a district. From my understanding of this in Louisiana, they were trying to separate one predominantly black district into two. Um,
Mhm.
During the majority opinion, Justice Alito improperly, or well, he quoted in views of data provided by the DOJ rather, that was skewed. Obviously, the Trump DOJ skewed data is just a fucking shock at this point.
What? No way.
Right. In saying that it was basically that black voter turnout or African American voter turnout was so high that this level wasn't essentially needed to have a second district. So that got struck down, and in part for saying that it's based on race. Again, I can't make it any more clear. Gerrymandering is about race. It
Right.
always has been. It's the voting equivalent of redlining for housing, right?
Yeah.
That's all it is. So that's where we sit right now. We are down votes because of Texas being allowed to do it. No issue there. Without
Oh, yeah.
the vote of the people, mind you. And Virginia says fuck it.
Yeah.
What'll be interesting to see is the justices for the Virginia Supreme Court are elected by members of the General Assembly. The governor can only do temporary appointments to the bench for their court. So there's two justices I want to say that are going to be automatically removed due to age. Their mandatory retirement age, I believe, is 73. But there's two that are coming up for reelection by this General
Sorry,
Assembly.
mandatory what now?
Mandatory. What did I say? A mandatory
No, no,
retirement.
no.
Yeah. Mandatory retirement age. What is that? What is that as a concept? I'd like to hear more about that.
Yeah, no, that would be a great one for us to have. Once you reach a certain age where you're no longer, deemed to be capable in doing your job.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that every 73-year-old is
No.
pudding like Trump is, but obviously I think we both agree strongly.
Yep.
Whether it's a mandatory retirement age or term limits, and I like the idea of term limits for our politicians.
I would love to see age limits for politicians. I would love to see term limits on Supreme Court justices. Not necessarily term limits because it's a life appointment, but I'd like to see a limit put on how long they can serve. It should not be for an entire life.
Oh,
Um,
no,
anyway,
or even if they have the mandatory retirement age, the thing is that we're seeing, Ruth Bader Ginsburg hung on forever. She should have retired and enjoyed the sunset years of her life, but instead she was holding on tooth and nail until a Democrat was in office. So that
well,
seat,
there was a Democrat in office at the time. Problem with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and I hate to say it out loud, is that there was a black Democrat in office at the time. And I don't know if it was a matter of race. I don't know if it was a matter of gender because she thought so strongly that Hillary was going to win that election. But she wanted to wait until the first woman president could appoint her replacement. I think that's what she was really shooting for. And that ended up overturning Roe. So if we could not do that in the future, just the left in general has a problem with age. We have a very old average age in our elected officials. We have a system where people think that they've been there the longest, so they're entitled to certain positions, certain appointments, and things like that in the House of Representatives. Same goes for the Senate, but mostly in the House of Representatives. And I would really, really like to see that just be completely done away with. And if this is a leftist Tea Party movement that's happening right now, I would really, really like to see some challenges made at the DNC to the way these I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but the way these things are played out.
100%. When you look at who we have representing the the Democrats here. It's like, you know, we're just opening up coffins and voting people out at this point. Chuck Schumer is a
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
100 at this point and does no good for us anymore. Nancy Pelosi, she should have fucking retired years ago as well.
Yep.
You know,
At least she stepped down. At least she stepped down from the speaker role. That was at least a baby step forward. But she shouldn't be representing San Francisco right now. She shouldn't be. She's 110 years old.
you know, to say that she stepped down in the same way that Biden stepped down or stepped out of the way, right?
Yeah.
It's like you have to have some sort of self sense that I don't know what's best for the young people in this country.
Yeah.
Now, right? There's no way that an 80-year-old is gonna have any sort of semblance of being able to understand what a 20-year-old who's just venturing out into the world is gonna have to fucking face because of everything that they've done over the past 50 years.
Right. And the example of that people like to throw out is anytime there's any kind of law regarding tech, that the House and the Senate just look completely clueless when they're trying to describe any of it. The internet is a series of tubes. That's a famous quote that goes around. But there's more than that. There's things like TikTok and the recent they went back and forth for a couple of years about whether they were going to ban TikTok or not. And I don't want anybody making a decision on something like that doesn't know what a TikTok is. That, you know, they have to maybe discuss it with their grandchildren and learn how some of these things are used. They're not qualified to make decisions. And it seems like they're not even hiring people to tell them about these things so that they can make an educated decision.
I think the era of us hiring qualified, employees to work for us is long gone at this
Yeah.
point. We're obviously not hiring the right people. And for politics, for the House and the Senate though, they have all these young interns too, right? There's hundreds of programs across every university in the country and high schools where you have the opportunity to apply for an internship to work for a congressman. So they have the ability to get this information, but they don't give a fuck. They don't take that time.
Yeah.
And Congress in itself is at such a standstill all the time. They never get anything done. There's no semblance of urgency to do anything. We have our
Right.
side, the Democrats are saying we need lower prices, this, that, and the other, and they're saying it, and the Trump side's just saying everything's fine. Let's go paint the fucking refucking pool.
Yeah. Yep.
And now all of a sudden, $1 billion we need to scrounge up for the ballroom that was supposed to be free and $200 million 6 months ago.
Yep. Well, it's always a matter of moving goalpost with him. We saw the same thing in his first term with the wall when Mexico was going to pay for it, and then oh, by the way, it's going to be taxes that pay for it. No, by the way, what we're going to do is we're going to pull money from the military to pay for it, and they just played this shell game of money to eventually get that thing paid for, and then it never even went up.
Right. And that's what's going to happen with this ballroom.
Yeah.
What's going to end up happening is once Trump kicks the bucket here during this term, that's just going to be a fucking pit. That's just going to stay there. It's going to be like an episode of Parks and Rec. Leslie Knope's going to be out there trying to say we need to fill this pit in. And
all the things that Trump is putting his name on, a golden arc, the Kennedy Center, all that. We can have the Trump Memorial Pit. We can burn things in it. That'll be fine. It can be like a burn pit. And we'll just go with that.
if we could spend years next to a bird pit, then they can't do it.
What was that?
But I'm just so frustrated with this decision here in Virginia though, because we had this huge hope, right? This big blue wave that was coming. And I still think that we're going to be just fine. I still think that we're going to come out with with a majority.
I still think we're going to get the majority in the House, and I think we have a pretty strong case to make for the Senate as well. And even if we don't take the Senate, I think the big thing that we need to keep our eye on is John Fetterman in the Senate, because if we come up with a 51-seat majority, which is going to be required in order to break a 50-50 tie with Just Dance coming in for his tiebreaker vote, then we're going to need to worry about Fetterman just crossing sides. So there's going to need to be at least 52. And even that comes back to, will the Democrats play their game of just enough senators want to cross over to not do anything to actually help the people? I think the only way to break that is with the supermajority, and we're certainly not going to get that this time around. But even with this and the next election, I don't think we're going to get a 60-seat majority in the Senate ever. So it really boils down to, what are we even doing here? Is this even savable? And I'm not sure I have an answer on that.
I don't think that I don't think anybody at this point has an answer. You know, we're
Yeah.
2 days after this ruling. We're 10 days after the gutting of the Voting Rights Act from the Supreme Court, and they've already said no to any sort of rethink on the appeal or on the decision, which is just lightning speed for them. This is again John Roberts coming out and saying that the American people have the wrong view of what justices are supposed to be and that they're not political actors. I would love to know when in the past decade that the Supreme Court, the past 2 decades, the Supreme Court hasn't been a political actor.
Right.
I'm just, you have fucking Clarence Thomas sitting there taking bribes, free jets and free vacations, and all of a sudden has no sense of morality. Not that he did ever. I'm sorry, he never did. That came out during his confirmation hearing. He should never have been through. Kavanaugh should never have been made it through. You know, we're packing the court with a bunch of fucking rapists. But they've been political actors this entire time. And for John Roberts to come out and say, well, no, the American people have this wrong. Fuck you, right?
Right.
I've read enough of this shit. Fuck you. You are nothing but a political actor. Every time that you rule that it's okay for some fucking lunatic to not have to take a background test for a gun, you're being a political actor.
Yeah, that's political activism. That's what that is by definition. Yeah.
And it's shocking that he wants to go out and say that. Now, the court is supposed to stay away from it. They're not supposed to be in the public eye. They're not supposed to engage in these types of questions. But they have been because they're bolstered by this fucking Trump who just thinks that he has the court in his pocket and can do whatever he wants.
Because he does. Effectively, he seems to.
Right. And every time that they grow any sort of spine and say, nah, we're not going to quite push it that far, they fold 10 times worse in the next case. That fucks us even more.
Yeah. And not just that, but anytime they do kind of a little bit, give them any kind of pushback, there's always a caveat to the ruling where it's just in this case, but you can bring another case before us and maybe we'll rule a different way.
Right. I think if we do end up getting, I think if we get a majority on both sides and we end up taking the presidency in 28, if we're not packing the court, what are we doing?
That's got to be, that has got to be priority number one for any Democrat that wants to be any kind of serious about running for president. You're going to have to yell explicitly that you want to pack the courts. Any Democrat that doesn't want to expand the court is not going to get my vote. And that's pretty much what it boils down to. I mean, there's a few things that I have that are sort of pet issues of mine. Everybody has their own. None of that matters to me this time. It's just a matter of expanding the court. And any Democrat that wants to do it will get my vote, and any Democrat that doesn't want to do it won't. Simple as that.
Absolutely. And there's two of those for me. So the first is court packing, 100%. Presidential candidate, if you're not talking about it, fuck you, you're not getting it. I don't care who you are. The second one, and this is for every politician at this point, if we at these town halls and at these debates and these these times where we have to ask questions of the candidate, if we're not saying to every Democratic candidate, if you win, what are you going to do about all the crimes that are being committed within the Trump administration, and are you going to go after them?
Yes.
I mean, that's the other one, because if you're going to tell me, and so for my district, I have John Mannion. If I have the opportunity in a town hall to say to him, John, what are you going to do? We take the majority. Are you going to go after Trump and his associates? And if he doesn't say yes, you're not, and I'll tell him that right there. You're not going to get my vote. It's either a yes or a no. We're going to do it or we're not.
Yeah.
I'm not saying be successful, right? There's a difference. Showing a spine and actually doing it is what we want.
We wanted the entire time, when Biden got sworn in, we wanted his DOJ to prosecute the crimes of the Trump administration during administration number one. And he just didn't. He just sat on it for about 2 years, just long enough that these cases would be able to drag their feet and not be tried by the time the next election rolled around. That was completely intentional. You're never going to be able to convince me that wasn't the game plan. That's how they did it. And historically, we haven't convicted politicians. That's generally a good thing. Even if I would argue that some of the things the Bush administration, some of the things the Obama administration did would have been war crimes that probably deserve to be prosecuted. If we as a country aren't going to turn around and prosecute those people, then that's the decision that we've made. But there are way too many open and blatant crimes that this administration is committing and doing it publicly, not even trying to hide it. The Qatar is sending us a jet and to use as Air Force One. That is a bribe.
It's free.
That's all there is to it.
It's free.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only counter argument here. It's free, but we had to put $400 million into it to
Right.
make it so it could be used. So it's not free. It's $400 million that could have
Of
gone
course.
towards healthcare, could have gone towards
Yep.
school lunches for kids, could have just gone to feeding the homeless or helping homeless vets. No, fuck that. Trump needs a plane, and then then he's going to put it in his goddamn library, right? So it's a gift to the government that Trump's taking.
Yep.
And no, and everyone's
Yeah,
just like,
it's a gift to the government that he will take when he leaves office.
right. And that's perfectly normal. And they have no issue with it.
Right.
Zero.
Right.
Fucking Biden wants to take a paper clip. They would have been on his ass. It would have been a month-long story on Fox News how Biden's hoarding government paper clips. This asshole's taking a plate. I'm sorry. The hypocrisy and the willingness to just go along with it.
Yeah, just acting like any of this is completely normal. And why do you have a problem with it?
So earlier this week, I had texted you that I was watching this Watergate special on HBO, and I was in my kitchen and it was playing, and they're describing what Nixon was like. I had to stop because I thought they were talking about Trump at this point. Just the lust for power that there's no line that won't be crossed in order to get what they want, and I'm just like
100%.
and they made a good point in this whole thing because I don't know if you've seen this. It's Watergate. It's on HBO. I forget what the tagline of it. Make the blueprints of a scandal, something like that.
Okay, yeah, I haven't seen it.
Has Michael Cohen in it, and because with Watergate you had a patsy. You had one of their lawyers take the fall, and then you had Michael Cohen take the fall here, right? So he's talking about like this feeling that you get when you're getting that pat on the back that we see Cash Patel getting all the time right now, and how it's intoxicating that you get on that high of the president is proud of the job that I'm doing. I'm just going to keep blindly following it, right?
Yep.
And then all the shit in Watergate comes out just for Ford to pardon the president, to pardon Nixon. And the thing is that they said, obviously the president is a difficult is a difficult person to try and bring to trial, right? Because of qualified immunity and what falls under that. Now it's seemingly endless, right? Anything that Trump does, he believes is going to fall under immunity for him.
I have a feeling that the Supreme Court will also define that as anything the president thinks is part of his job is automatically immune, whether it is or isn't.
Right.
It's just anything that the president needs to be covered from any kind of prosecution that will be considered part of his job.
Right. And that's what it's going to end up being. We're going to end up with another.
For this president, that won't apply to any other president. Only this one.
Right. Because Obama still needs to be tried.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Yep.
He needs to be in jail. Like that just needs to happen because Trump said so. Immunity only applies to him. The Teflon Don. The fucking greasiest fuckhead ever to step foot in Washington, right? Like again, we can talk about the hypocrisy on that side day and night. That'll never stop. That'll continue going. We fucked ourselves so bad by pardoning Nixon.
Yeah. That's what laid the blueprint for all of this.
We'll never be able to hold the president accountable. The thing is that if by some miracle at the end of the day we were able to go after Trump for something, I have a feeling that whoever's in office is just going to pardon him anyways. So what does it matter?
Yeah.
Well, like there's no accountability now.
Because we've got to look forward. We can't focus on the past. We have to look forward. We always have to look forward. Sorry, man, you can't heal without. Yeah, you can't heal without putting the Band-Aid on it.
You can't heal without sometimes cutting the cancer out too.
Right. Sometimes you got to cut the cancer out.
Yeah. I think that I think in order for this experiment of America to continue, you need to see the president held accountable for this. You need to see see them go to prison for these crimes, and not for just a weekend trip to some minimal security thing to then get a pardon. No, hard time fucking federal pound me in the ass penitentiary, right? Like that's the only way that we're gonna be able to take what we have is this amazing idea for our country, reset it, and say we're not gonna stand up to the bullshit that we fought so hard in 1776 to fucking get away from, to allow it to happen in the modern age.
And we've allowed it to weasel its way back in, and it all kind of comes to a head with the Epstein files, with the whole Epstein case, because that includes people on all parts of the political spectrum. It comes down to money, not politics. Every single one of them that's in there needs to be held accountable for the things that they did. And yes, a lot of people are just mentioned because it was somebody that was brought up in an email. I get that. Not everybody that's mentioned did anything horrible, but somebody that's mentioned thousands and thousands of times did some horrible shit. And it's pretty clear that they did it, and they can't be just given a pass.
Right. And the thing that I think we want to make extremely clear, it does not matter who it is, right?
Yeah.
It the name, it does not matter. You you abuse children, you go to prison. It does not matter. Bill Clinton, I don't fucking care. The guy got a Hummer in the Oval, whatever. You fuck around with kids, you go to prison. It does not matter, and that's the problem. And this is why I will never stop saying that the MAGA movement is nothing but a cult, because they do not have that delineation that he did something wrong and he needs to be accountable. But then they'll say, well, you think that Obama should never go to prison. No, that's not what we've ever said. We've never. Bill Clinton should have gone to prison for some of the things that he's done. And if he wasn't a politician and a well-connected one, right? But if he wasn't a well-connected and a powerful individual, and he was you or me, he would have.
Yeah.
We need to get back to the notion that we are not run by the government. The government works for us.
The government is run by us.
And that starts from your city council. You don't let those people get away with things because you elect them. They're your public servants. To your congressman, to the president, there's no difference there. They work for the people. They're paid for by the people for the will of the people. The Supreme Court of Virginia said, "Fuck that. We're not doing it. We don't care."
Exactly.
And that's it. And I hope that you see, regardless of what the districts look like at the midterms in Virginia, that they still go out and vote and that they still go out and kick their fucking asses. We need to make sure that the candidates that we have in these districts actually have teeth, that there's no more of this, well, we haven't won that district in 100 years. Then find somebody who can fucking win. There's somebody out there that might not fit your fucking view, that might not fit what the DNC thinks is the mold to win, but the mold hasn't worked. That's why we continually get our ass kicked by this moron and his fucking people. We need to stop this notion that there are districts that are unwinnable, because the country is showing slowly, very slowly, but the country
There's
is showing
absolutely no excuse for an uncontested district. None. I don't care where it is. I am from I know I've said that I've lived in a bunch of different places in this video already, but I'm originally from South Texas, deep red area. There's absolutely no reason a Democrat shouldn't be running in my district back home. Just recently, I actually sent this to you in a message earlier, is that my hometown had an election recently, and on the ballot was a school bond. And I have never once, I graduated high school 20 years ago. From the time I was in high school to now, have never seen a school bond pass in that town. And the reason is, in order to give the schools money, they have to raise taxes on the people in the town. And if there's one thing people in Texas hate more than public schools, it's taxes. That passed a couple of weeks ago. It only passed by about 150 votes, but it passed. And I think that in itself, in the deepest, reddest part of one of the reddest states in the country, people are hungry for some kind of change.
Yes. And there's no excuse at this point for the DNC to say that we can't find a candidate that's gonna challenge. Every district is winnable. We have to stop propping up these dinosaurs that are gonna win their district because they've been institutionalized forever.
For people on the left, we need to also embrace the fact that sometimes being an asshole is a good thing. Like, sometimes those are the candidates that actually get their point across to the constituents and win elections. That's why I just don't have a problem with any tattoo that Graham Plattner had to cover up.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's a problem with me. Maybe that's just me being a straight white guy, and that's a problem that I have. That's entirely possible, but I also think he's going to win Maine, and I'm okay with that.
It's not like he tried to excuse anything away. As soon as it was brought to his attention, now sure, if you want to sit there and take the pessimistic view, you could say he did it because he knew that it was bad, that he got it covered up because of that. I don't care. He covered it up.
Right.
I saw a video on Instagram not an hour ago, a guy who was in prison and got a fucking swastika tattooed on his chest, and then so when I got out, I realized just how terrible this was.
Right. Yeah. That's another thing is that people change, and if you're going to hold the past that they did something 20 years ago, maybe longer, as just an absolutely irredeemable quality, then you're not gonna win enough people over. And that's not to say that we need to take on card carrying members of the MAGA cult. I'm not here to welcome Tucker Carlson into the fold.
Here to
Not
welcome
gonna happen.
Martin Green into the fold either.
Nope.
They want to now to start, mea culpa for propping Trump up for years. No, I'm sorry, that's not going to fly. You've done your damage.
As soon as they start campaigning, for a Democrat, I'll believe them.
But even then, I wouldn't trust that because they're gonna campaign for the John Fettermans out there.
Mhm.
They're gonna
Yeah,
campaign for the Blue Dogs. You're gonna start to see. I think we touched on this last time, but we're gonna start to see that kind of more the farther away shift away from the central take hold, just like it did on the MAGA side, but I obviously not so stupid, right? Like the nice thing about when you start to go further left, you become more educated as well. That's a
Yeah.
typical progression is the more educated, the more left. The least educated, obviously, you become MAGA. I don't make the rules; those are I just have to play by them. But I'm never going to accept Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
He's had a silver spoon shoved up his ass his entire life, ripping off people on fucking chicken. And then he wanted to spew the shit that he did for years and years and years on Fox News and then got booted there. And now he has his podcast where now he's like, oh my God, I was doing so many terrible things.
Right as the MAGA like tent is getting to be the smallest that it's ever been. When people are jumping ship like you've never seen before. People are jumping ship like crazy. Anyway, that number's dwindling, and he knows that. He knows there's a huge audience of people that buy into everything MAGA except for Iran, or except for suddenly having to pay high gas prices. Like, except for these other things, they are fully on board with everything else MAGA. A lot of them, Nick Fuentes, that fucking guy, his only issue is that Trump didn't go far enough with ICE. There weren't enough deportations. And now he's doing anything he can to stay relevant by telling his people, oh, you need to go vote for Democrats. Yeah, sure, they're evil, but I'd rather take evil than a traitor. Like, fuck that guy. I have nothing for him.
I'm sorry, I just can't take him serious.
No.
And I know that he has this following, and
Mhm.
I don't get it. I don't get how a person could just so easily just start licking boots.
Yeah.
It's shocking to me.
I'll tell you exactly how it happens. The other day, I'm not sure if I sent you the message or not, but the other day I was just scrolling through YouTube and saw a thumbnail of something that looked like it was straight out of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Like, why in the hell is the algorithm feeding me something like this? It had the caricature, exactly the one that you're thinking of, with the Star David behind it. So I was like, all right, I want to see why YouTube is giving me this. Maybe this is supposed to be like an ironic thumbnail. No, the guy had a Ron Paul sticker behind him and a big "In the Fed" banner. He was exactly what we thought he was. And I haven't done anything that, other than maybe a little bit of research into opposition, that Google or the YouTube algorithm would think that that's something it should feed me. But there it was, like third on my list of stuff that I might be interested in watching. They just hand that shit out.
Yeah, I'm starting to get in my algorithms here a lot more of the apologetic MAGA, and
Yeah.
I don't have the time for it.
Right.
I do not have the time for these people. we've been talking about it for years that Trump's going to ruin this country. We've been talking about it for years that
Yep.
he's
Yep.
going that he's not like it doesn't something doesn't have to hurt you personally for it to be bad. And we are such a me-centric society that if it doesn't affect me, then why do I care?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's only going to be good for me. And then, but the moment that anything bad happens, oh, I had no idea it was going to be this bad. Then he didn't fucking listen
Well,
because
this is bullshit now that it affects me. Yeah.
it's complete bullshit. So that you were bringing up gas prices, and it's really funny. Is yes, I believe it was yesterday. Trump's obviously talking to reporters because that's what he does. He doesn't do anything. He does nothing but talk and then want to build shit. He's like a toddler.
Yeah.
He's a toddler with Legos.
That's it.
And you're dingling your keys in front of him, but then he says a bunch of bullshit, shits himself, and then goes and plays with Legos. That's Trump's day. That's his whole day. So he's talking and he's like, well, gas prices have gone down considerably. Have you seen it? They didn't. Of course they didn't, because gas isn't going to go down, first off,
Nope.
because we keep blocking this fucking strait from oil reaching destinations that it needs to go to.
And we are running out of reserves too. We're about to get another jump to those prices that people are not prepared for. I'm talking another $1.
Which is absurd.
Yep.
So then after I saw that, then Kevin Hassett, who's the lead of the economic council, was talking. He's like, I was meeting with a member of one of the large banks, one of the top 5 banks, and we're going over credit card debt. And what we're seeing is that, well, gas prices are going up. Credit card usage is going up. People are spending more money because they have more money in their pockets. Are you fucking stupid? No, people are spending more money on their credit cards because they don't have any money in their savings.
Because they
I'll
don't
deal with it
have money
tomorrow.
in their pocket.
I'll deal with it tomorrow. That's why they're spending more money on their credit cards. It's not because they're like, it's not because, so like consumer spending went up. It was either 1.2 or 2.1% from March to April.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, that's a good thing. No, because it's all at the fucking gas pump. That's where it was like 80% of that increase was at the pump. The rest of it is on the goods that are being fucked over by the pump as well. Because it's not just our gas prices that are going up. It's gas prices, the diesel price for the truck to bring the corn to the store.
Yep.
So it affects everything. People are spending more money that they don't have. Wages are not going up. Wages have stayed stagnant. The buying power of the dollar is going down. Kevin Hassett thinks that this is all great things because credit cards are going through the roof until we all default because we don't have the money to pay for it.
And that's coming.
Of course it's coming. Of course it's coming. And the thing is that they're going to make $1 billion fucking dollars off of it too, because somebody's going to short it, make $1 billion on it failing, and be just, and everything's going to be just fine. But we're still going to be fucked. The middle class is going to be gone, more so than it already is. We're going to continue to struggle. We're going to be in a new recession and or depression type scenario where we're fucking lining up for cheese and getting our rations and still working ourselves into the grave. Because everything goes up, but they want to look at credit card usage as some sort of amazing indicator that the economy is booming. They keep talking every time that something bad goes wrong.
Couldn't be more opposite.
Right. They keep talking about the stock market going up. Well, listen, I can't fucking afford stocks because I have to pay all these bills. So the stock market going up to 58,000, I don't give a fuck. All that means is that some asshole's getting more money. Does not make a difference in my life. All it means to me is that something's going to get more expensive here shortly. That's the end.
Absolutely right. And with that fantastic news, I think that's a good spot to leave us on for the week. One thing that we didn't do last week that I meant to add for this week and going forward is all the typical YouTube stuff. Do us a favor, like the video, comment down below, give us a subscribe. We are learning this as we go, so we'd love to have you as a part of this. Feel free to do all of those things, and we'll see you next week.
We hope to see you next week. I'll put it that way.
We'll see you, Kyle.